Hello fellas. Welcome back to Top 5 Choices. This is Haley from Top 5 Choices, and I hope you all are doing good. In today's video, I am going to do a detailed review and pick the top 5 best tablets under $1,000, 2022. After doing proper researches, we came to the conclusion that meets the best in terms of overall. Kindly leave a like if you find this helpful, and I'd appreciate if you subscribe to my channel and turn on post notifications if you haven't. We will be also providing affiliates link to purchase from Amazon. Kindly use it for best offers and purchase from anywhere in the world. We'll be back with more videos. The MatePad Pro shares a likeness with other Mate devices, making use of metal and glass to give the device a premium look and feel. It has a modern slim design made up of a sturdy yet lightweight magnesium alloy frame with an integrated antenna that removes visible antenna lines for a cleaner look. The screen on the MatePad Pro is crisp, gorgeous, and just large enough for work and play. It's an LCD panel with a 2560 by 1600 resolution and a wide 16:10 aspect ratio. The panel is also DCI-P3 color graded for higher color accuracy when editing photos on an advanced photo editor like Lightroom or editing videos. With brightness shooting up to 540 nits, you'll be able to use the tablet under bright lights, and while there's no HDR certification, at 1500:1 contrast ratio the screen looks sharp and vibrant. As a result, content looks great across videos, articles, and digital comics. Narrow bezels around the screen don't get in the way of how you grip the tablet and rarely cause accidental input thanks to excellent palm rejection. The screen is also satisfyingly responsive if you want to doodle with your fingers. For more accuracy, you'll want to use the optional Huawei M Pencil, which is not the best stylus we've ever used, but does well enough to take quick notes and annotations. Another accessory you can get to round out the MatePad Pro is the smart magnetic keyboard that doubles as a folio case. You simply plop the MatePad Pro on top of the cover and it snaps in place without effort. It has a decent typing experience, though the key travel can get a bit awkward, and it also doesn't have a trackpad, which makes it feel a tad dated. Another gripe we had with the keyboard case is the MatePad Pro can't be tilted too far back, making it sit too straight and awkward to use if you place it on your lap, for instance. Huawei's packed in a quad-speaker setup tuned by Harman Kardon with 2 speaker grills on the top and bottom. There's a lone USB-C port at the bottom and no headphone jack, which is unfortunate for a Pro tablet. The 12.3-inch display uses the 3:2 aspect ratio that's come to dominate the detachable space. It's nice to have a bit of extra vertical room for documents and web pages. The X12's display is nice, with rich colors and deep blacks in movies. The color gamut covers 100% of the sRGB space, and the screen is very bright, up to 400 nits, which helps cut through the glare in brightly lit rooms. What's missing in the ThinkPad X12 is what's missing in every detachable, namely ports. There are 2 USB-C, Thunderbolt 4, ports on the left side of the X12, and, thankfully, a headphone jack. That's a little limiting, but it's not worse than what you'll find on just about any small, high-end laptop, detachable or otherwise. The difference is that here any dongle you attach is going to hang off the side of the screen, which is awkward. The X12 does have a pen loop on the right side of the keyboard. It's not as nice as the tucked-away pen storage Dell offers, but Lenovo does include the pen. The stylus isn't all that responsive either. The Apple Pencil is tough to beat in that regard, but it works fine for jotting down notes. One pleasant surprise of the ThinkPad X12? Battery life. Given how small and thin it is, I wasn't expecting much, but I found that I never needed to charge it in the course of a day's work. It managed 9 hours 18 minutes in our video playback drain test, but it performed even better than that in real-world use. It will depend on what you're doing, but with my workload of chatting with coworkers on Slack, browsing the web, and writing in a text editor, I was often able to get very close to the 10-hour mark. The base model ThinkPad X12 starts at $1,100, which gets you an 11th generation Intel Core i3 processor, 8 GB of RAM, and a 128 GB SSD. It's pricey, but thankfully the keyboard is included. The model Lenovo sent me is a step up, with an 11th generation Core i5 processor, 16 GB of RAM, and a 512 GB SSD. This configuration will set you back $1,279. It's the one I'd suggest for most people. You can save a little money by going back to 8 GB of RAM, which is enough for light-duty computing. Samsung launched the Galaxy Tab S7 and the Galaxy Tab S7 Plus at the same time. While the Galaxy Tab S7 is the successor to the Galaxy Tab S6, which I reviewed late last year, the Galaxy Tab S7 Plus pretty much reflects the best that Samsung has to offer at the moment. It has a big 12.4-inch Super AMOLED display with a resolution of 1752 by 2800 pixels and support for HDR10+. The bezels on the display are the perfect size, slim enough to look modern, yet thick enough to let you hold the Galaxy Tab S7 Plus comfortably without causing accidental touches. Samsung expects you to use this tablet primarily in the landscape orientation, and has placed a selfie camera to the right of the panel. There are 4 AKG tuned speakers on the Tab S7 Plus, 2 positioned at the top and the other 2 at the bottom on either side of the USB Type-C port. The frame of the tablet is made out of metal and has a premium feel to it. On the right side, you have the power and volume buttons, along with a tray for a nano SIM. You will see a 3-pin connector sitting flush on the left of the device, with 2 notches for compatible accessories. Samsung did send me a book cover keyboard case, which fit this tablet perfectly. More on the keyboard case in a bit. You'll find antenna lines running across the top and bottom of the frame, which help the Galaxy Tab S7 Plus latch onto LTE. The back of the tablet is flat with only a dual camera module in the top left corner. A glossy patch extending below the cameras tells you where you can stow the S Pen. It stays in place using magnets, and is automatically charged while it is attached. The Galaxy Tab S7 Plus weighs 575 g, and single-handed usage would be challenging. Samsung has packed in a 10,090 mAh battery, and supplies a 15W charger in the box. Samsung has pretty much cherry-picked the best hardware for the Galaxy Tab S7 Plus. Microsoft may have finally included a USB-C port, but absolutely nothing else has changed about the Surface Pro 7 design from last year's model. The device still measures 11.5 by 7.9 by 0.33 inches, 292 by 201 by 8.5 millimeters, and weighs 1.7 pounds, 770 g. The tablet also still comes in the same matte black and silver aluminum finishes. The tablet's touchscreen still comes in at 12.3 inches on the diagonal with a 2736 by 1824 resolution, 267 pixels per inch, and 3:2 aspect ratio. It's just as sharp, vibrant and responsive to touch as the previous generation, which was already quite impressive. But, again, this specification hasn't changed in years, and could use an update at least in features, such as HDR and enhanced color gamut coverage. Also, the bezels are awfully thick for a tablet of this price in 2019. Not now having issued practically the same tablet for 2 years, it's becoming clear that either Microsoft has reached its limits on the original Surface Pro design, which is unlikely, or the company is simply no longer interested in tweaking the Surface Pro anymore, except for tinkering with the Pro X. Instead, it feels like Microsoft is far more inspired by its upcoming dual-screen devices, which will likely herald the future of the company's hardware design, depending on how successful they are. For the most major Surface Pro 7 design change, we get USB-C at long last, but it's on the USB 3.1 standard and not Thunderbolt 3. There are 4 speakers in total, a Thunderbolt port, Type-C, at the bottom, and a SIM tray on the right. The Indian cellular models, A2459, support one eSIM and a physical SIM, so it should be possible to switch between networks when you travel, but you can't use both networks actively, dual SIM mode, like on an iPhone. Sub-6 GHz 5G is supported by the units sold in India, but mmWave 5G is only available on units sold in the US. The back of the iPad Pro has a dual camera bump in the top right corner, a large Apple logo in the middle, and 3 contact pins at the bottom for connecting to accessories. The display is identical to that of last year's iPad Pro, which is still one of the best you'll find on a tablet, second only to Apple's new 12.9-inch iPad Pro. The 11-inch Liquid Retina display uses an IPS LCD panel with a 2388 by 1668 pixel resolution. It supports features that we've seen on previous Pro models, such as a 120 Hz refresh rate, 600 nits of brightness, true tone color temperature adjustment, and full coverage of the P3 wide color gamut. The display has rounded corners, just like the frame. There are thick black bezels, which makes good ergonomic sense on a tablet. The biggest upgrade with this generation is of course Apple's new M1 SoC, which is said to deliver up to 50% faster CPU and up to 40% faster GPU performance compared to the A12Z Bionic SoC in the 2020 iPad Pros. Not that anyone is really complaining about last year's models being sluggish, but more performance is never a bad thing. Unlike some of Apple's base model Mac computers, for which Apple has used M1 chips with a 7-core integrated GPU instead of 8 cores, all variants of the 11-inch iPad Pro get the full 8-core GPU. The amount of RAM does vary though. As we mentioned earlier, the iPad Pro 2021 also supports Wi-Fi 6 and Bluetooth 5. There's a LiDAR scanner in the rear camera cluster. There are 5 microphones, which promise studio-quality sound recording and far-field Siri activation. The USB Type-C connector now supports Thunderbolt 3 and USB 4 protocols just like Apple's Mac computers. This allows for higher bandwidth connections, so you can now do things like connect to Apple's own Pro Display XDR at its full 6K resolution.